political prisoner is. In the case of black people here in the United States, New Africans, ever since the first slaves were forcibly brought here to these shores, there's been resistance. And when that resistance manifested, sometimes the plantation was the prison. But after the plantations, when we were able to leave plantations so-called freely, there was also all kind of new laws and institutions built into the system to force us back into what they started building prisons. So that's a brief definition of when as a people, as we started to struggle against these conditions, we started to raise our voices, to raise our flags, to raise our fists, to raise our weapons. We have become we are a direct consequence of our resistance to slavery, oppression, and genocide. So that's the definition in brief of what a political prisoner is in my humble judgment. I think these cases that the sister were talking about, these people were targeted because of some vague relation to Islam, and maybe sometimes being Muslims, and they were clearly discriminated against in terms of the prosecution, the escalation of charges, of attempts to continue to punish them for basically almost just being Muslim. But on top of that, just again, they represent some kind of oppositional framework to the state. I wanted to ask Steve to talk a little bit about this kind of incarceration that we have. A young brother wants to talk about Anthony Gay. But I want to have time for questions. And I always thought that interchange is a little bit more productive than us just talking at you. So, Steve.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. 5 minutes.
See, I knew it was all political when they gave us, in 1978, when they gave a 15-year-old over 100-some years. See, so when you go to the joint, whatever, you gonna get treated different. So when I went to Stateville, they locked me up by myself. They limited my visits. They put me on what you call a circuit. That means every 30 days, they moved me to a different joint every 30 days, so I could, get no mail. No mail couldn't catch up with me or nothing. They moved me every 30 days. And I was like, now I was still young, so I really like being pissed off now. So every time I see the police, I just said, y'all treat me like I just treat y'all the same way. Yeah. But I ended up catching cases after cases, more cases. But it didn't bother me because I already had over 100-some years. I was thinking to myself, I ain't going nowhere anyway. So I might as well just make this my permanent home. But then the transformation came when I got denied 25 times by the parole board. And they wouldn't give me no reason. And to this day, I still didn't know the reason why I got denied. To this day. And I started, okay, I said to myself, okay, I'm gonna, I ended up getting 4 college degrees while I was there.
Hallelujah.
And when I was trying to get it, that's when I was trying to get it. The one was in criminal justice. So when I get the one in criminal justice, I got myself out. So the next time I went to the parole board, they couldn't deny me that. But I had everything that I needed. I told them I was going to take them to court now. So they decided to let me out. And I've been out like 12 years now. I try to take the possible police as possible. Because I got a quick temper when it comes to police. I'm not going to answer nothing. Police can't tell me nothing. You go your way out, I'm going to go mine. You do you, I'm going to do you. I'm going to do me. So because like I said, it's real political when you in the joint, because they definitely going to treat you. It's a lot of things. I won't get no right food, especially when you say by yourself. I didn't have no TV or nothing like that. And I'm like, and I had this term. I went to SIG, when I went to SIG when I was like 18. I didn't get out of SIG until I was like 25, 26. You know, going from joint to joint every 30 days. So you couldn't catch up, no meal catch up, no nothing. You know what I'm saying? You go to the yard by yourself. So it was hard, but hey, through God and my faith, hey, I'm here. I'm here to talk to you people. And that what matters.
This is our comrade on Mawali. He's also incarcerated in the Illinois system.
Right, 8 years, brothers and sisters, both of you all.
You can to the microphone.
Yeah, brothers and sisters, both of you all at 18, 19 years of age, Vietnam vet at that time, 75, 76, 1975, 76. I had been to Vietnam, and thank God, come back. But I came back to my neighborhood, which a lot of good stuff and bad stuff was going on. And unfortunately, I got attracted to the bad stuff. Because I thought I was a little above the average because I'd been to Vietnam and came back, so I thought I was tough. I didn't understand there was ignorance. But I got caught up. Police grabbed me, sent me on to the penitentiary, the system did, since that's the way I felt. And I did 8 years. They locked me up at 22. You all hear me? They locked me up at 22 years of age. I was a Vietnam vet at that time.
If you have any comments or questions about this segment or any others, please visit us at lawanddisorder.org. That's lawanddisorder.org. One word, lawanddisorder.org.
Black Panther Party. So I was naturally attracted to them, naturally. And that's when my downfall came in. At that time, the system was reacting to them because they was some progressive young people, and they focused in on the police because the police was doing worse than what they doing now in the community. But them young Panthers, male and female, they was unafraid. They confronted the police actually became really targeted. But at the same time, the system wouldn't allow that kind of action coming from the people, and especially from the young people. And a group of folk calling themselves the Black Panther Party. No, they focused in on them guys and began to railroad, began to falsely charge, and get them on up out of the community, send them on to the local lockups, and finally the penitentiaries. And that's where I ran into the Panthers in the penitentiary. I was already there, 22 years old, been to Vietnam. Come back, thank God. But now I'm in the penitentiary. I'm in the penitentiary with 40 years over my head. 40 years. I did 8. And I learned from it. I learned that's what it was for. I was in a position that the Almighty God put me in to learn. There's some time you keep your mouth shut. There's some time you shut up. And so I learned that. And in learning that, I became a better American, a better citizen, a better black man, and a better person. And since that time, and that was back in 73, 74, in fact, in 70, 71. And since that time, I've been a good person, good American, loyal, dedicated. Here I am sitting here before you all, giving out this history.
All right. I think it's important that we have on one side of the panel up here some people that did a long time inside. This side, we have some people, the young lady spoke of, who are either in prison or on their way, and they may not have gotten life sentences and everything, but I think if you talk to any of these brothers, anybody you ever know that's ever been locked up, one day is a long time. So, my purpose in talking about political imprisonment to most people in the audience are younger than myself, you know, we have to become in the frame of mind of having an ongoing system of support for our people as they become confronted with a system that's designed to down-press us. The movement to support political prisoners is not just about the named prisoners, the Sunyata Kohli, Geronimo Pratt, the Mumias. It's about us, because it's a people's movement that's gonna actually transform this place. I call it empire. My brother, I know he was saying stuff about being American. You know, I ain't with that. We have to unite under tension to transform this society.
Right.
We have a young man who will speak about Anthony Gay. Okay. You
Love
give it
and
5 minutes,
respect.
Doc?
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, then we're gonna open up for a little discussion, a little conversation.
Johnny Bill at 65.
Johnny
Oh,
Bill back
oh,
there.
come on up here, boy.
C number. You don't have to know what I mean if you don't want to. Prisoners, a lot of prisoners who come from that time period when the people rose up, either they was in the party or either they was just, throwing rocks against the police or whatever in the streets. They caught cases. And then they become, they at the time when you get locked up, you get designated a number. And all of them had C's in front of their numbers, C numbers. So they become the C number prisoners. And so as they went on, as they did 10, 20, and 30 years, the system decided in that time that we need to get tough on crime. There was all these politicians telling we need to get tough on crime. And so the C numbers found themselves, if they had been convicted of murder before 1978, they had people coming in maybe after 1978 that got convicted of murder under the new law. The new law allowed them people to do 10 or 15 years in prison and get out. But the C numbers had been given what they call indeterminate sentences because at the time, they had a system of parole set up that was designed to supposedly judge people for their worthiness for coming back to the street. But after the new law was passed, people became less and less inclined to let people come back to the street because they was trying to obey this mandate to get tough on crime and all this other shit. So C numbers ended up starting to do more time. And so in the 90s, we developed the C number campaign. We worked for a good time. We got a lot of people out, like Johnny Bill, Conrad, Steve, and so the work to support prisoners, to visit them, to put money on their books, to struggle against some of the injustices of the rapacious way that the phones are set up, all these kinds of things. This is all important. So we have to struggle against this stuff because a lot of it is based on injustice, capitalism, designed to make somebody else's cousin or child rich while we stay poor. So this is
Thank you for the time. Real quick, I'm gonna really try to keep it 5 minutes. I do believe in timekeeping. My name is Morali Garima. I am a co-chair of the CFIS committee in the Chicago chapter of the National Alliance. You all heard my co-chair speak last night, young Harriet Tubman, who gave you kind of a brief kind of preview into the work that we do. Here in Chicago, we work with a lot of wrongful convictions and survivors of police torture. You know what I mean? And Chicago is the police torture, and wrongful conviction capital of the United States. They're building a monument here.
John Burge.
This notorious John Burge, who you may or may not have heard of, who was a man who cut his teeth in torturing in the Vietnam War against Vietnamese POWs and brought that skill set back into Chicago and became a commander in the police force and used it against black and brown people on the south and west sides, torturing through electrocution, mock executions, beating, burning, suffocation, any manner of things to coerce people into signing false confessions in order to lock them up, and they did it to hundreds and hundreds of black people here in Chicago. And he's been copied around the country. He had a crew called the Midnight Crew who worked, who helped him do this work, and in fact, many of them are still on the force, including one of the highest paid officers, Brian P. Forberg, who's, we have over 15 cases who were following him who have been wrongfully convicted by him. But I'm actually here to talk to you all about another brother who we have been working with, because there are some cases that are so egregious that they are, as we say, emblematic of the worst violations of the system. And those are the cases that we really put all of our energy into highlighting. We work towards to helping, all the families that come to us, but there's some cases that have to be taken up and have to be highlighted because they represent a change in the link, which if we force and direct all of our attention towards, we every blow that we deal to, we deal that same blow to all other cases and all other prisoners within the United States, and I'll tell you exactly why. So Anthony Gay, at 21 years old, was arrested for, I think, $1 robbery, and petty crime essentially. And through a system of, while he was in, getting more charges on the inside, essentially racked up over another 100 years worth of violations. And but the way that those are supposed to work is that you serve them consecutively. You're not supposed to serve them continuously. 3 years plus 3 years. You're supposed to serve them consecutively, so 3 years in total. But this prison where he was at, Livingston Prison, had a pattern and practice of putting these cases, putting these charges onto the people who were inside, and then making them serve them consecutively, continuously, and simultaneously is what it's supposed to be. Thank you.
Finish one and then start the other.
Exactly. Thank you. So the important thing here though is that he ended up doing, by the end of it, 22 years of solitary confinement. He was not in general population in these, during this time. That's why his case is the one I want to highlight today. He did 22 years of solitary confinement, and the punishment, the charges that he was getting were because he was exhibiting these symptoms of his mental illness that he developed through and because of the solitary confinement. They would then use those opportunities to charge him again and again and again and again. And his mental health specifically expresses itself through cutting and other forms of self harm. And so you meet this brother, I hope don't want to be too graphic, but the signs of his mental illness are all over his body. All over his body, unmissable, from his arm to his neck, everywhere. And so they essentially, he found this incorrect, the fact that he was serving his time incorrectly, and became a brilliant jailhouse lawyer, while he was inside, and was able to fight for his own release. He got himself out after 22 years, instead of 100, which they wanted to do. And then, actually, while he was inside, started to campaign and created a bill to limit solitary confinement for everybody in the United States. To no more than 10 days within a 180-day period, which brings it into line with the UN definition of torture. Anything beyond 10 days within a 180-day period is torture, which is what all of our loved ones experience on the inside, because now I think it's 90-day minimum. In the States, they even have a minimum, you know what I mean? And so That bill got through the House, it's now stuck in the Senate, so that's one aspect of why he's implementing this. And when he got himself out, it also set a precedent for the other people who were serving consecutive sentences, who were then able to then combine them into concurrent sentences. So he also was able to lift all the votes, of the people who were inside and being subjected to those criminal patterns by those prisons. And I'll just fast forward a little bit and just say that after he got himself out, he was then charged and framed again by Illinois on a gun charge. And so I don't know if any of y'all have been in a courtroom where these types of injustices have been served, but certainly a frame-up is probably one of the most frustrating things that you could ever witness, and certainly, far more for, to experience it yourself. But we witnessed it in real time as it was happening, as they were using situations like, all these cases that he got on the inside to say that he was a danger to his community, and then basically railroad him. Actually, he represented himself and was able to get a hung jury the first time, which is the first time it's ever been done. But then they retried him in front of an all-white jury in, somewhere in Illinois, and then, got him. So he's now back in for another 7 years. And within the first 5 months of being back in, he had over 30 cases of, his mental illness regressed back to, what he was experiencing. 30 more cases of self-harm, 12 surgeries, and they're actually continuing to, do that same practice of punishing him further and further. So, but he's still fighting. He is a revolutionary. He is an organizer. The moment he was out, he was organizing his community. His spirits, his mental illness, all those things where he was experiencing what you would expect, which is somebody who's taken in by the community, and he's basically fighting to undo all these things that I mentioned. So I just wanted to highlight that for you all to say that Anthony Gay is a case that the Chicago Alliance has been working with. And I know we'll probably get to many other resolutions, but there's two things that I want to ask of you all. One is, we're still fighting to get him out, right? And in the meantime, we're also fighting to get him proper treatment, because the prison he's at now, he's now in federal prisons. He's been moved to another one. The prisons that he's at now have him in a situation called a stages program, which is essentially, supposed to be helping him with his mental health illness and others there, but it's a high incident prison. And so when incidents happen, they lock down the whole prison. And lockdown is essentially isolation, for these people who are there to be treated for symptoms due to isolation, you know what I mean? And so one of our calls here is we want to ask everybody here, I'll pass out these pamphlets, if you could commit to calling, the prison he's at called Terre Haute, and demanding that lockdown will not interfere with medical care for patients, right? So that's one, concrete step that we can take. And if you'd like, you can also send him a letter, which we would also encourage you to do. And the information for both of those things are here on this flyer. The final thing is, I know we'll do other resolutions, but I just want to propose that what we want to do, because it's a federal case and because it has implications for everybody, especially if we're able to defeat solitary confinement in that way, I want to propose that the alliance takes this up, the National Alliance takes this up as a national priority. So that's a proposal for us to consider today.
We have a resolution that we want to propose to the workshop, but I also wanted to, we got a few minutes we can ask, we can take a question or two before we get into the resolution. All right, this is please, go ahead.
Quick question, for you, when you were talking about the list, was that the state sponsor of terrorists?
Oh, yeah, the State Department list.
Okay.
Designated terrorist organizations.
All right, sister, you have a question right here?
Yeah. How can we support, you mentioned earlier something about how you
Speak a little loud enough to it.
How can we support prisoners?
How can we support prisoners?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a laundry list. Well, first of all, you can become aware. Everybody in the United States needs to understand 10 statistics about prison, about the scale and the impact of mass incarceration in the United States. On any given day, about 2 million people in the United States are locked up in jails and prisons and other spaces of confinement. Point number 2, 3.7 million people are held under community supervision such as probation and parole. More people that are held in prisons and jails combined. Point number 3, police threaten or use force against more than 1 million people each year, disproportionately against Black and Latinx people. Number 4, people cycle through local jails more than 7 million times each year. We have an incarceration nation. More than 79 billion people in the United States have a criminal record, creating barriers to housing, jobs, health care, and food assistance, among many other collateral consequences. Half of all Americans have an immediate family member who has been incarcerated. 1 in 5 people have had a parent incarcerated, and 2.6 million children have a parent who is currently incarcerated. Anybody ever raised kids before? Y'all know what that's like? 80% of women in jails and 58% of women in prison are mothers, and most are primary or sole caretakers of young children. Incarcerated people and their families spend upwards of $2.9 billion per year on phone calls and commissary. Annually, people owe more than $350 billion in court-ordered fines and fees. Every state locks up Black people at a higher rate than white people. Every state. On average, Black people are incarcerated or in prison at rates 6 times higher than those of white people. The median, I'm sorry I'm going so fast. The median felony bail amount of $10,000 represents 8 months of income for a typical detained defendant. So that's 10 statistics. It comes from the prison. We had handouts that we gave out at other things we went doing. It's dealt with by the Prison Policy Initiative. You can look it up on the web. It's a fantastic brief piece of information about 10 stats about scale and mass incarceration, impact of mass incarceration. Oh, amen. Okay, and then what can people do? Adopt a political prisoner. Write them, send commissary. You put a link on your Facebook or website page leading to info about political prisoners. Have your masjid or church adopt a political prisoner and even pray for them by name. You can join Jericho or any organization that supports political prisoners, or start a letter writing event once a month in your organization or city. So those are some of the first things you can do to support political prisoners.
Yep. For supporting the Muslim political prisoners that are on our list, you can go to our website, which is civilfreedoms.org. You can donate money for their commissary. You can become a pen pal. If that part's not on there yet, because we're still working on our website, you can write to us and we can set you up as a pen pal. We just had a request for pen pals. We also have a mailing list here, which you can sign up and you can write that you want to be a pen pal, and all the other things he said, and you can write to them and you can try to visit them.
Is it true that when you put commissary money that it gets taken? I have a brother who's currently incarcerated. He was 50 years old when he went in. And I remember the time that I had sent money and he called me and he told me that they're taking his money.
It depends on the case. Sometimes if you owe court fees or something, they will take a certain portion of it. So it depends on the situation. But for most of the people we have, I think they're not taking it, but because they didn't get fines or whatever. But it depends.
So there are fines if the state takes money.
It depends on if they owe the court money for whatever stupid reason.
Okay. Now, if he's a Muslim for prayer materials or like, he can't import, are those boundaries set?
So it depends on the prison, but you know, whether.
Sorry, what was the question?
Oh, if they're Muslim and they want like halal food or clothing or prayer materials or books,
yes.
you have to find out, like, you can have a book sent from the publisher usually. A lot of times they will request, or people will request stuff like that. The commissary, they can hopefully buy some halal food either through the commissary or through outside vendors. So, you know, it depends on the prison, but you can find out from the prisoner what they need.
To our political prisoners, former political prisoners, thankfully free, how'd you survive? How did you not let the anger consume you?
Jay?
Excuse me for being, how we say, more cordial and paying more attention to listen to what you have to say rather than trying to speak. First of all, my name is Khalid. Look at me real closely, you see that I have been through this conversation that you're having, we have lived it. Mass incarceration is not a joke. Mass incarceration comes about during a political strike. If Reagan didn't put it into play, it was proposed by Bill Clinton. Yep. Orchestrated in the Senate by Biden. It is critical that you have to understand that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is synonymous in one thing: getting tough on crime and staying in office in any means necessary. So when mass incarceration comes about in our community, black community, brown community, in communities of less financial status, come on, brother. When you are incarcerated, you're not incarcerated because of crime you did. You are incarcerated because of the zip code area that you live in. 60610, 60612 is a big difference than 60602 and 01 downtown Chicago. In this area here, Henry Hornets used to be up in this area for projects. 6010, Cabrini Green. Stateway Gardens, I would come out in the hole as you speak. Those are just setting your landscape of how incarceration takes place. You see the youth today, reckless. What do the staff do? What do correctional officers do? What do the police do? What do the state senators do? They will pass a law to curtail this particular violence. And if that doesn't work, it's a larger scheme that you put back into the community. Get tough on crime, war on drugs. War on drugs opened Pandora's box for everybody being incarcerated. Here you have a system where you don't even know you are being targeted until you fall into the system. 17-year-old kid. My rabbi was 13. 4 of us doing 100 to 200 years. I just served 51 years of my life in the Department of Corrections. In the struggle, a minor going into adult prison, trying to understand, trying to cope what it means to be an adult. Your life on the line, you fighting every day. Being exposed to such violence on a level that you haven't experienced, because institutions breed survival. And survival of the fittest is the only thing going to stand. You hear Hillary Clinton talk about apex predators, or juveniles or young generations that was, super predators. Yet still these same kids come to an adult situation and they're vulnerable. These same kids don't know how to adjust. If you wish to support a prisoner, don't look at the prisoner. Look at your uncle, your father, your mother, and your aunt, because they be subject to be locked up in any kind, any given place, anywhere because of anything. Learn how to fight. Know your laws. Know how to resist logically. Being forceful. A man asked the question, how do you survive and not lose your sanity? How do you survive without being bitter? Know your self-worth. Once you know your self-worth, you know your value to life and what you bring to your family, to your community, and what you have in store for the future. It is so critical that you reach back and try to adopt, save, or get interested in criminal justice. I didn't get your name coming in, but we didn't know we was political prisoners as kids coming into the system. Understand one thing, Illinois do not offer parole. You cannot make parole in Illinois on the books. Under the table, you have dinosaurs that have been grandfathered out in the system that are now geriatric prisoners. They came down when they were 17 to 14 years old. still within the system, trying to get parole, with your understanding that parole don't exist in Illinois. Your help is needed to crack the door for these juveniles with life. Life is considered 100 years, not just say natural life without parole. When you do 20 years, that's a lifetime. Imagine a juvenile doing 50 to 80 years and still locked up. I need your help. I'm a co-defendant. They'll be 81 years old when he goes to the parole board. Come down as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old. I was blessed. I fought to get home with the help of the Lions. I'm a community activist, been fighting all my life, trying to make change. John Howard Association, the Lions, mentors, teaching, earning 3 college degrees, learning paralegal certificates, fighting in court. We need your help. 4 people, 3 people, 2 people, it doesn't matter. A letter, support, phone call will help these cats try to get home that are political prisoners. I don't cry because it's an emotional problem. I cry because these people are going to die behind the wall for something they do. And they shouldn't have to. When you say you get tough on crime, get tough on crime for something that you can understand. If you don't understand getting tough on crime, research it.
My name's Tony. I'm from New Orleans. My question is, I'm not a lawyer. For a living, I work in a warehouse and stack boxes. But I am an activist. I know how to put together a march. I know how to put together a rally. I know how to put together phone lists and phone banking. How do you defend against political repression, like with those skills, without like the legal skills? How to, I'm sure we got more activists in this room. We have lawyers. How do we use our activist, skills in practical ways to fight against this repression? How does that look like?
Join an organization.
Yeah, come on.
All right. Hey, that's all right. That's serious. That's a good start, right? They gonna ask you, what can you do? You say, I can do this, I can do that.
The Urban League.
Yeah, okay, please, because I got to get some resolution.
Hey everybody,
National Alliance.
my name is Andy Williams. Out here in Illinois, I'm called a hood candidate. I'm very solution oriented. I'll give you a little background. I done did 2.5 years locked up. Whatever, most of us have. But to fast forward, July 1st, 2021, I filed a suit against the United States and 30 states for the ongoing role of slavery. One of the solutions we have is litigation. Once each one teach one. So I sued them, I sued the police department for slave patrols, I sued for the gang database. All this happened to me though, so it's personal. So I bring a life experience to this platform. Second thing is legislation. It is my understanding from what I've read through the system books that in order to file a claim against somebody or sue, you have to have an injury. Most of this legislation is unconstitutional because it's not law. We need to understand the difference between legislation and law. Law involves a crime against people or property. Legislation, which they created as law, is a crime against the state, which is legalized slavery. And that's what the lawsuit that I said was about. The second thing is legislation. We have to repeal this, and we the people can do it. Know about jury nullification. Jury nullification means even though the law or this legislation says somebody's guilty, the jury can say, we ain't buying it. The reason why the jury would say that, because if you're doing it to them, you're going to do it to me. Our generation is the fruit of that. The third thing is to run for office. We keep talking about the Democrats and the Republicans. What we started was a We Are the People party.
Yeah, come on.
Okay? We are the people. We have the power. And it's this generation's turn to exercise that. So I'm a 2024 presidential candidate, but this ain't like another campaign like somebody else do. This is a brother with a body of works that's showing that we have experience. Because when you get involved in politics, you're a representative of the people, not of your political party. We outnumber any movement that you can see out here. When I'm talking about advocates, activists, allies, attorneys, I like to call that the A-team. Y'all know about the A-team, Mr. T and all them. Yeah. We got this, y'all. We got this. Yeah. We got this. Because our generation is fed, forgive me, the fuck up.
Yeah.
After the march, what you gonna do? After the rally, what you gonna do? We need to bring awareness to the solution. And that ain't gonna come just to a march. We got to educate each other about our rights. Anthony Gray is locked up in a jail for possession of a gun when a judge and, I really want to say judicial officer, in Texas said it's unconstitutional to deny a quote-unquote felon, also known as a slave, gun rights. The Constitution protects our rights. It don't give us rights, it protects our rights. And we as the people have the right to do whatever we want to do as long as we're not infringing upon somebody else's rights. You see what I'm saying? So if I got a gun, I got the right to self-defense. I definitely don't trust the police.
Yeah.
Unless you one of the neighborhood police officers that I'm going to see at the PTA meeting on Sunday or Saturday at church. So now we can call you out because that's what we used to do. Yeah. We got to do this, y'all. Our generation is to change.
Okay, I have a resolution. I have to try to get pass a resolution out of this workshop. I think I want to incorporate the Anthony Gay information you said about he wants to
NAARPR to take up this case as a national priority.
Okay. Can you? We're gonna work on that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm reading the resolution. Read the whole resolution. It's a page long. I have a few copies up here if anybody wants to see it. This is a resolution to support and free all political prisoners. The National Jericho Movement, November 2023. Whereas a major goal of the National Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression is to fight for and obtain the freedom of all political prisoners who have been imprisoned for or remain in prison or in exile because of their advocacy for ending racial, social, and economic injustice, as well as prisoners who have been tortured and or wrongfully convicted. Whereas the failure to provide political and material support for prisoners of war is a failure to push the politics of national liberation, just a failure to support prisoners. Oh. Whereas the failure to provide political and material support for prisoners of war is a failure to push the policies of national liberation. The failure to support prisoners of war is both a failure to support the policies of anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism, and thus a denial of the national oppression of New Africa. And number two, a failure to support the policies of armed resistance to imperialist domination. But far more at issue, far more fearful to some are the adjustments that must be made in lifestyle and habits essential for those who would actually carry on a practice suited to the real world. Whereas Jericho is a movement with the divine goal of gaining recognition of the fact that political prisoners and prisoners of war exist inside the United States, despite the United States government's continual denial and winning amnesty and freedom for these political prisoners. Whereas the Jericho movement grew out of a call for a national march in the White House during the spring break of 1998 by political prisoner Jaleel Luther King. The call was made in October of 1996 through the Provisional Government, Republican New Africa, and the New African Liberation Front. Therefore, be it resolved that the National Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression, 1, continue and accelerate its goal to fight for and obtain the freedom of all political prisoners as outlined in its bylaws. 2, continue support of the political prisoners listed here and in solidarity with the Jericho movement as it continues to identify those in need of our support, including, but not limited to, I put that in there myself, Asar Shakur, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, Abdullah Malik Kaba, a.k.a. Jeff Ford, Larry Hoover, and Leonard Peltier. Let it be known that since the 2021 conference of the NAARPR, both Sundiata Kohli and Malmi Kabir Mays have been released. Also, with Tulu Shakur now rest in power, we can take some, I'm happy about that stuff. And also, number 3, that it be recommended to both Jeff Ford and Larry Hoover in communication with their attorneys about the possibility of communication of their, commutation of their sentences and presented to the appropriate elected government officials. And number 4, we'll add a resolution, part of the resolution asking for the limitation of solitary confinement to 10 days or less.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
You could, it would basically, the idea would be that NAARPR takes up as a priority and then decides, specifically what they'll do.
Okay, and in regards to Anthony Gay, take up, we advocate for NAARPR, take up Anthony Gay's case as a priority. Be it further resolved that the Chicago chapter of National Alliance for Political, NAARPR, demand that Kim Fox, State's Attorney for Cook County, Illinois, reopen the assassination of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark in light of a recent disclosure of government conspiracy by the FBI, CIA, and other governmental agencies presented this 4th day of November 2023 by the Jericho Movement at the National Alliance for Repression Conference held at the Chicago Teachers Union at 1901 West Carroll Avenue. Do I have any major disagreement with this resolution? Right on. Okay, we're gonna whip the Conrad afterwards and work out the language, and y'all didn't read it at the thing. Thank you so much for